Hey everyone, I'm going to be reading this article and telling you about it, giving some commentary about it. I don't feel like being on camera right now, but Danny kind of feels like being on camera, so you might see her. Wow, right on cue. What a pro. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to read this to you. Okay, attack on transgender youths isn't just cruel, it's an omen. This is from the Las Vegas Sun. It's from 6th August, okay, this year. I can't decide if I want to read it fully and then tell you, but I think I'll just comment throughout. Okay. In his first 6 months in office, President Donald Trump has launched a relentless campaign of fear and intimidation aimed at dismantling the network that provides health care to transgender adolescents. Good. Because that's medical malpractice. Children should not be getting quote-unquote transgender care as adolescents, but as adults too. I'm real fucking sick of seeing people be like, well, I don't think it's okay for kids to transition, but if an adult wants to do that, then it's okay. No, the fuck it isn't. It's wrong, full stop. It's medical malpractice, full stop. Anyway, it's working. Hospitals, worried that their federal funding for Medicaid and Medicare might be jeopardized, are rapidly withdrawing support from this small, vulnerable group of young people. With each passing month of Trump's presidency, families find the future of care for their transgender children increasingly uncertain. I don't know why you would be stupid enough to think that your only option when you have a quote-unquote trans kid is to give them hormones and ruin their bodies and harm them. That's what the medical industry does to them. But anyway, this is not only cruel, it's also a chilling sign of how easily this administration can target any form of healthcare it opposes. In recent weeks, the tone of the administration's attacks has become darker. A day-long event last month organized by the Federal Trade Commission titled The Dangers of Gender-Affirming Care for Minors was clearly intended to send a message to the medical community that supports these kids and their families. Good! The message being sent to them should be stop. This is not the right thing to do to children or anyone. At the workshop, Chad Mizell, Chief of Staff to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, highlighted the civil and criminal tools at the FTC's disposal to root out fraud. Mizell revealed that his office has issued nearly 20 subpoenas to clinics that offer gender-affirming care. Okay, good, because they're probably, honestly, have given gender-affirming care to people who are committing fraud. They do that. They do this shit under the table all the time, you guys. I don't know if you know that, but they do things like give kids care illegally, quote-unquote care, right? They give them medical attention illegally, or apparently you can obtain hormones illegally. I'm not even going to get into that, but it's possible to obtain them illegally. And then sometimes someone will come in that has already been taking illegal hormones, non-regulated hormones, and they have to care for them and not report this crime for a minor. Yeah, that spells PROBLEM. Okay. He didn't provide details about who was under investigation, but he said the scope spanned healthcare fraud related to Medicaid billing and false statements and manufacturers of certain drugs. The New York Times later reported that those subpoenas sought confidential patient information from doctors and hospitals. Okay, unfortunately, that is a consequence of doing this kind of thing. I don't agree. I actually really don't agree with that, but if you're going to illegally take your minor child somewhere, that you raise the risk of that happening. I'm sorry. Anyway, the FTC was an unusual and arguably inappropriate venue for the event, and panelists appeared intent on rationalizing the agency's creep into regulating this sensitive area of medicine. Okay, there's nothing sensitive about it. If something is medical malpractice, it's medical malpractice and it needs to stop, period. It's not sensitive. It's not a question. Okay? It's a fact. They asserted that doctors have been deceiving parents about the benefits of gender-affirming care, a claim that seemed more political than based on any real evidence. Well, that's true. It's fucking true. Unfortunately, these uneducated, totally clueless parents are read a script from their children that are most of the time girls. If you've read Irreversible Damage by Abigail Schreier, or it's, I guess sometimes they're boys that have a script ready saying, oh, I'm transgender, this, that, and the third. And then they're like, okay, we'll take you to the doctor. And then the doctors are fucking stupid enough to be like, okay, we'll get your kid on hormones after one visit, after one 15-minute visit. Have you guys noticed that a lot of people have been saying that? A lot of people who are now publicly detransitioning and putting their detransitioning videos on YouTube and are just talking about it openly say that they met up with someone as a teen, as a minor, a therapist or whatever. They have a less than 15-minute appointment with them, less than 15-minute interaction with them, and they walk out with a prescription for hormones. Can you please explain to me how that's good? Because there isn't a good aspect of that. Anyway. A claim that seemed more political than based on any real evidence. Wow, Lisa Jarvis. Clearly you haven't fucking looked into this shit. Clearly you're just, I don't know what she's doing. Maybe reading listicles on BuzzFeed. But like, the quote-unquote care that they receive is bad. The quote-unquote care that they receive is damaging. The quote-unquote care that they receive is traumatizing. The quote-unquote care that they receive is due to them being in a self-harm cult. A lot of people say like, oh, I know I've said this before, you guys, it bothers me when I repeat myself, but I'll repeat myself again. A lot of people say like, oh, well, if you give a girl trans affirming care, she may grow up and not be able to have kids. That's true. That is a concern. But a little bit more pressing than the ability to have or not have kids is the fact that a lot of these women that get these fake penis surgeries can't even urinate properly. They end up not even being able to use the bathroom correctly because I think it was something above 75% of them that get the surgery have complications. Shocker. Because it's a fucking made-up, useless, pointless plastic surgery that makes no sense. You guys know I don't like plastic surgery, but let me talk about plastic surgery for a moment here. Plastic surgery, no matter what you're getting, if you're getting breast enlargement, if you're getting your ears shrunk, your ears pinned, you're getting a nose job, you're getting your hairline changed, you're getting a chin implant, you're getting buccal fat removal, I don't care. All of those things have a healing period, and then you're supposed to heal, and you're supposed to go back to living your life normally. You're supposed to go back to being able to do every single thing, or if you're getting like a breast reduction, which is way more necessary than a breast enhancement and a breast enlargement, you're supposed to be able to do more things. There is a healing period. It does take a while, right? You're going to have to take time to heal. You're going to be out of commission for a little bit, but then once you're healed, you're supposed to immediately go back to doing everything you did before. All the activities you did before. There's supposed to be a mere small change in your appearance. There's not supposed to be a problem. Obviously, problems do happen, but ideally, if plastic surgery is performed correctly, that's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to go back to living your normal daily life and everything's cool and you have no problems, right? If you get a nose job and it works successfully, and it wasn't done improperly, then you're supposed to just go back to work, go back to being a mom, go back to working out, whatever the fuck, I don't care. That's what is supposed to happen, and that is what never happens with transtrender surgeries. Because if you have your breasts removed, that limits your arm ability, that limits your arm movement ability, that limits your chest movement ability. There's likely nerve damage there. And if you get your dick inverted, oh, gee whirlikers, I guess there are going to be problems there, aren't there? Yeah. This isn't like, okay, let's just move on. A claim that seemed more political than based on any real evidence. Well, here's the thing. Okay, even if Lisa Jarvis isn't smart enough to search ID transitioned on YouTube, the fact of the matter is that this is wrong. Okay, like I said before, with plastic surgery, so-and-so can get a nose job and go back to her normal life. With, that's proper plastic surgery, right? But with transtrender surgery, it's probably going to ruin your life. And you know what? You may regret a nose job, even if there's no problems with it, but you're probably going to look like a normal person. You're probably going to be able to function like a normal person. Regretting, I'm saying it's morally wrong. I'm saying you don't need evidence to understand, to discern something that's morally right and something that's morally wrong. There's no evidence needed. We know for a fact that no one can change their biological sex, so why the fuck are we lying to these people and going along with their stupid LARP game? Anyway, okay. The event highlighted the lengths of the Trump administration is willing to go to restrict access to this care. This approach mirrors efforts to target other politically charged areas of medicine, such as medication abortion, through a variety of regulatory and legal avenues. Okay, first of all, I think it's abortion medication, not medication abortion or medicated abortion, which is RU486. That's also called mifepristone, which is the abortion pill that is safer than the surgical abortions. Wow, where are we? Right here. This is the whole article. Where was I? This is the whole article. What is that? About halfway through, we got to the point where this Liberlol started comparing transtrenderism to abortion. Typical liberal retardation, honestly. How fucking dare you compare having transtrender plastic surgeries to getting an abortion, you idiot. That is absurd. That is so absurd. That makes me rage, okay? That makes me really fucking mad. That is not okay, and it's not the same fucking thing. Just like cosmetic plastic surgery is not the same fucking thing as transtrender plastic surgeries. Those are two completely different things. Anyway, between the legal threats and the specter of losing federal funding, hospitals around the country are backing away from treating new and increasingly existing patients, regardless of the laws in their states. Families' options are quickly narrowing. I really hope that's true for transtrenderism, because transtrenderism is wrong. It's been about 17 years. And it takes, unfortunately, on average, 17 years for medical opinion to change. So we've had about 17 years of this bullshit, and now it's starting to change. Thanks be to God. You know what? That's not even because of Trump. Obviously, he's helping, but fucking finally, people are starting to come to their senses. They were before Trumpkin was elected the second time, by the way. People were finally starting to come to their senses and be like, wow, this is messed up. Wow, this is wrong. Yeah, you know what? I'm actually not going to recognize a transtrender as their imaginary sex. People finally were waking up to that fact. And it was not because of Trump. Yes, Trump is changing these regulations. Thanks be to God, because it never should have happened in the first place. Can you believe this is where we are, you guys? As a nation, we got to the point where it was A-O-fucking-K to give minors sex change operations. Because they read shit about it on Tumblr. They read shit about it online. They became, with males, more often than not, males who there are two types of male transtrenders. Okay, they're homosexual transtrenders. Okay, let's use the proper term. They're homosexual transsexuals. HSTS, homosexual transsexuals, meaning they're actually gay men And because they were socialized in a sexist society their whole lives, they're like, oh my God, I do this, that, and the third. I must be a woman. Now I'm going to be a woman. And they often get love bombed for doing so. They're like, oh, I always knew you were a woman, blah, blah, blah. The other type of transtrender, male, is an autogynephile, meaning a man who is sexually aroused by appearing like a woman, by wearing quote-unquote women's clothing. Okay? Most of the time, autogynephiles develop a pornography addiction, and then the thing with pornography is that you have to keep upping the ante. You have to keep increasing the stuff that you watch in order to become aroused. So it gets to the point where watching either transgender porn or imagining yourself as a woman isn't enough. So it gets to the point where they're like, oh, I need to cut my dick off. I need to invert my dick. I need to get breast implants. I need to start dressing like a woman. That's what a lot of autogynephiles go through. Anyway, hospitals across the country have ended access to puberty blockers and hormones. I just want to make sure this is where it was. While other programs that serve transgender people are disappearing altogether, thank God. Last month, the Center for Trans Youth Health and Development of Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, one of the oldest and largest programs of its kind in the U.S., closed, leaving nearly 3,000 patients in the lurch. Thank God. Oh, my word. Thanks be to God. I'm so glad they closed. That is a Frankenstein for Kids factory. Quote me. There was a doctor, I forgot her name, but there's a doctor at this hospital specifically who was handling a lot of those things. She was one of the first doctors in the nation to start giving kids hormones, start giving children puberty blockers, okay? This is all an experiment. This is all a sick and twisted experiment, and unfortunately, a lot of people fell victim to it. And this woman, I forgot her name, but I remember watching a video in it might have been on Oprah, but I don't fully remember. I want to say in 2010 of this woman at this hospital giving a boy puberty blockers. She was like, oh yeah, that's the right thing to do. Oh, it's really fucked up. Okay. Also, why the fuck are there 3,000 patients? Why the fuck are there 3,000 kids that are transgender? Why the fuck is that? You might want to look into why that is, why there are so many of them, instead of just being like, oh no, they're without care. Anyway, okay. Families are also terrified that the rhetoric doesn't stop at restricting healthcare access, that their parental rights could eventually be at risk. Well, guess what, dumb shit? In Canada, they are. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but there was a guy in Canada whose daughter was transitioning. He and his wife were divorced. They did share custody of their daughter, and their daughter was, I think, under the age of 15, and she started wanting to transition. He was like, absolutely not, I will not do that. And then now he can't see her anymore. Like the state or whatever, I don't know how exactly it works in Canada, but Canada has expunged his parental rights because he didn't want his daughter to transition. He didn't want his daughter to have all this unnecessary medical help. And that's a crime, in my opinion. I mean, it's not, because Canada's fucked, but that's fucked up. That is twisted. Okay? That's wrong. How can you not think that's okay? How can you think that is okay? How can you not think that's a problem? Okay? Canada ain't far away, baby. Yeah, they're really different from here, but that's terrifying and wrong. Yikes. Okay. Their parental rights could eventually be at risk, How much you want to bet she doesn't even have kids? But anyway, or if she does have kids, they're not the transtrender age, which is shockingly always the age that they're able to read and go online by themselves. But anyway, an increasing number of them are considering moving abroad. Yeah, right. They're not going to fucking do that. Other countries are also grappling with how best to approach healthcare for transgender adolescents. But Christian Madera, the father of a Okay, let me just read this, then I'll rephrase it. But Christian Madera, the father of a transgender son, says their conversations at least feel more nuanced and productive. People are still listening to doctors, he adds. Let me rephrase it. But Christian Madera, a father deluded enough to believe that his daughter is actually male, a father deluded enough to believe that his daughter's delusion is okay, an uneducated man who thinks it's okay to LARP with his child permanently, to LARP with his child until further notice. People are still listening to doctors. Okay, I gotta move my foot. Sorry. Who the fuck cares if people are still listening to doctors? People shouldn't be listening to doctors that are pro-trans in this case. And I know for a fact, there were doctors that spoke out against this. They said, no, I'm not doing this. This is wrong. They don't fucking do transgender shit for children at Johns Hopkins anymore. They stopped doing that like a couple years ago because, wow, they looked into it and they found out that it doesn't help. They actually followed up with their patients and found that it's not productive and it's not real care. But why would Christian Madera know about Johns Hopkins? Oh, I don't know, one of the most advanced and well-renowned medical institutions in the world that stopped doing transtrenderism because it's wrong. Anyway, doctors should be speaking out against this shit now. Now that it's finally popular, it's finally becoming acceptable for doctors to say, no, I won't do that. No, this is wrong. Anyway, anyone not directly touched by this issue might be tempted to ignore the plight of these families and the government's targeting of transgender youth, and yet everyone should be paying attention. The cruelty on display should be reason enough to care, but if you need another, the same playbook that uses the guise of protecting the public to dismantle healthcare for transgender kids could be applied in other areas of medicine. Do you mean other areas of medical malpractice? Because I'm happy about that. Okay, the erosion of medical freedom, a principle the administration follows selectively, is already underway for transgender adults. Puerto Rico, for instance, recently passed a severe law threatening medical providers with up to 15 years in prison and a $50,000 fine for providing gender-affirming care for anyone under 21. Wow, great. Way to go, Puerto Rico. That is awesome. I'm so happy about this. I didn't even know that. Wow, thanks be to God. It must be because the people there aren't fucking stupid like they are here. Anyway, okay, but you have to, you know what? Even if you're not okay with that and you have a problem with that, you have to fucking look into why the fuck that might be. Why the fuck might they put someone in prison for 15 years and give them a fine of $50,000 for doing this? Could it be because it's medical malpractice? Could it be because it's wrong? Could it be because that quote-unquote medical care is actually medical abuse? Could it be, Lisa Jarvis? Could it be? Okay. We should also ask what comes next. Okay, this part pisses me off. We should also ask what comes next. Will it be withholding access to PrEP, the medication that can prevent HIV, ADHD treatments, antidepressants, medication abortion? I think the proper term is abortion medication, not medication abortion or medicated abortion. Or you can say mifepristone like a normal fucking person, so we learn how that drug is called, Lisa Jarvis. And the name of that drug. HPV vaccine, childhood vaccines in general. this is a reach. This is a real reach here. It's first of all, it's not okay to compare PrEP, something that grown-ass adults are able to take, grown-ass sexually active adults, right, are able to take, or even HPV vaccines or ADHD treatments. Those are not the same thing as medically abusing children who have a delusion that they're not their natural sex. How dare you even compare that? I'm disgusted forever. I will be disgusted forever that liberals think it's okay to compare abortion to transtrenderism. They're not the same fucking thing. I know transtrenders like to cry, oh, I'm going to commit suicide, but that's not in fact true. I know transtrenders like to, boo-hoo about, oh, their treatment is so important. And no, the fuck it isn't. No, the fuck it isn't. We quite literally know how important it is for women to have access to abortion. Also for girls to have access to abortion. We know that. That is not a secret. And it's abso-fucking-lutely not anywhere near transtrenderism. Anyone who's going to compare those two is real stupid. I'm just going to say that. Anyway, okay. That's not a random list. Conservative groups have scrutinized all these medical interventions. Now that scrutiny is coming from within health agency leadership as well. Take, for example, a recent Food and Drug Administration panel on the use of antidepressants during pregnancy, which alarmed experts by amplifying the risks of these medications while downplaying the dangers of untreated mental health conditions during pregnancy. Okay, again, why are you comparing that to transtrenderism? That's kind of dumb. That's kind of fucking stupid. Also, you need to examine that on its own. That is its own issue by itself, right? So, and if these drugs, these antidepressant drugs do have risks for pregnant women and their potential babies, aren't you concerned about that? Isn't that fucking concerning to you? And the fact of the matter is even if a drug is totally safe for a woman to take during pregnancy, and there are no perceived risks, right? You can't, most of the time, if you have some kind of mental health issue, you can't just take a pill and forget about it. You can't just take a pill and that's the magical solution. You have to be putting other work into your issues. You have to be going to therapy. You have to be doing what your therapist suggests you to do. You have to be doing the things that make you happy, etc., etc. Okay? What a dumb fucking comparison. Okay. The concern is that these ad hoc panels could be used to justify policy changes that restrict or eliminate patients' access to essential medications, superseding the rigorous evidence-based processes in all place to determine standards of care. Evidence-based processes in place to determine standards of care, all under the guise of protecting pregnant women and their children. Well, gee whirlikers, I hope we care about protecting pregnant women and their children. We don't, for the most part, we don't actually care about that. That's not actually something that people care about. I'm going to say this, and I just recently learned this. I hate to bring this back to abortion because that's apparently all I can talk about. But I just learned that every year in the United States, somewhere around 2,000 babies under the age of 1 die from neglect. And that is because those women were not tactful enough, nor were their medical teams tactful enough to suggest to them getting abortions. If they had just had abortions, if those 2,000 or so women had just had abortions, well, gosh, then their poor children wouldn't have had to suffer. And the moms wouldn't have to go to prison or whatever the fuck happens to them. Do not compare transtrenderism to abortion. I don't know why liberals think that's okay. I don't know why liberals think that's in any way comparable. It's not. At all. Oh, and a ton of women die giving birth in hospitals. A ton of women die giving birth in hospitals who already have young children. And then those young children don't have a mom because the medical industry needs improvement. Oh, look at Danny. She happy. She's a happy cat. Yeah. Beautiful girl. Okay. And of course, Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. is making sweeping changes that could institutionalize this approach. He has already replaced every member of the CDC's external advisory panel for vaccines with his own selected experts and is expected to oust the entire U.S. Preventative Services Task Force, an independent body that determines which services, like mammograms, insurers require to cover. Don't some medical plans not even cover mammograms? Don't you have to pay extra to have a mammogram? I think that's a problem. Okay, this strategy using flawed science, fear, and political intimidation is an immediate threat to the health of transgender people, not to mention their fundamental right to exist in society. Oh my God. Their fundamental right to exist in society. But make no mistake, this approach is unlikely to stop there. In one way or another, it will erode everyone's access to care, and we will all be worse off for it. Lisa Jarvis is a Bloomberg opinion columnist covering biotech, healthcare, and pharmaceutical industry.